All right, man. Well, thank you. I think we're running on time. Oh, I was going to tell you yesterday. Yeah. So I just played with that. I knew you wouldn't care, but that video of me looking like a fat Mexican trucker,
Yes,
I
baby.
thought that was like, yeah, I thought that was hilarious. And you know what's really funny about that video? It had 6 likes. No, it had 4 likes and 2 dislikes. And I
Ooh,
guarantee you it was some vegans. Like, I guarantee you it was somebody that was just anti-carnivore or whatever. And it's just funny. I don't think it was a biblical thing. I think it was like they heard this and they're like, "What is this rubbish?" Like,
I
no,
think
veganism
that
is the way or something.
yeah, I think that should be your goal is to try to get 20% dislikes. Like, everything you
Yeah.
post, I want 80% positive and 20% negative.
Well, the only 2 things I've gotten disliked for was the vegan carnivore thing. And when I said, "Were our parents horrible husbands?" Like, as one guy was like, "Speak for yourself, sonny," saying it was just funny.
Yeah.
He got offended. And then like 3 women, like it was so funny, like 3 women commented towards him like everything he said was true. And like it was funny.
Oh,
It was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah,
I
so
think that's the greatest thing about YouTube especially
yeah.
is
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
not that I put out a lot of content, but putting out stuff and then just leaving one little breadcrumb for that for that grumpy grumpy old guy or whoever to pick up. And, like, you just
Yeah.
drop it there, but don't make a big deal about it and keep moving. And then they will sniff that out and then just light up your comment section. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too because I think to an extent we're considered like the masculine men of today.
Boy,
And they're just like, "What are you guys talking about, little boys?" I don't know. But those like older people, yeah, it's just funny.
I saw a post that I resonated with a little bit, and it made me kind of check myself, and it was by an older preacher, probably
Yeah.
pushing 60, who I really respect. The gist of his post was there's all these so-called experts that are still
Yeah.
kids, young people, and they don't have a lot of life experience. They're just
Yeah.
regurgitating what they read or what they hear. And he wasn't completely saying that it was bad. He was just saying that he notices that's a big deal. And I sort of started pulling on that string. And I think part of it is the older folks that have all of the life experience, they don't know how to do Facebook and YouTube and podcasting, or they don't want to learn it.
Yeah.
It sort of got me thinking back to what we talked about, I think yesterday or day before, where you hit a certain age and then you don't have the wisdom. Like you were talking about the men in their prime between like 40 and 60 or something. And I wonder, yes, I think there's a point where like the older people stop growing. They kind of just they
Yeah.
retire,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
They
almost like
do.
and maybe the baton is passed. And maybe there's something that's like
Sometimes they don't pass it.
or they don't
Sometimes they're
pass
holding
it.
on to it.
But I wonder too, a lot of that is like we are living in the social media age. We're not living in the like day to day, face to face. Cause I think of like my wife growing up here, small town farming community where like you would go out to restaurants with the old folks, or like you would actually go visit your uncle and this and that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, I do agree. I think there's a lot of young people that don't have any like real experience. They're still living like in their mom's basement and they're like so-called experts on mental health or something. um,
Yeah.
but then I got thinking about like what we're doing. And if you're speaking from the Bible, you can get practical wisdom, knowledge, understanding from a 10-year-old from the
Yeah.
Bible. So age doesn't necessarily matter. The practical applications, sure, you want people that have life advice.
Yeah. Well, this is what so I was talking to pastor the other day about the iron sharpening iron, and I was like, I didn't tell him like who said this or anything, but I was like, he did say this, but it's in a video. I'm gonna write down the entire video or get the transcripts because it's like the video. It's like an hour. It's like a 90-minute video. I'll send you a picture right now. But like, so I walked on Saturday, and then I mowed my lawn, 28,000 steps.
Nice.
Isn't that crazy? Because I was mad at yesterday because Marjorie totally like I don't know what the term is. I mean, I want to say the words honey potted me, but like, so I typically run a little bit on the later end. I'm never like the early person. And I think just over the years, because of like the five kids and like just, I'm not making excuses. Okay. I run late sometimes. So she told me yesterday because she had to go somewhere. They had like a baby shower or something. She told me to be home by 5:15, and I was like that's cutting 15 minutes into my like walking time, which in 15 minutes I can get like maybe like another third mile. And so I was kind of like, and so then I get home and I'm like, it's 5:15, you gotta go. She's like, oh no. She's like, I told you that. I gotta leave at 5:30. And I'm like, I'm not mad at you. That's probably the smart thing to do.
Yeah,
But I'm like, I only got 11,000 steps in yesterday and I could have got 13. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? So like, it was just interesting. But everything worked out, But I was like, no, but back to what I was telling you about. So the Napoleon Hill, he really is huge. And this is why like or at least I'm trying to get more comfortable when it comes to being uncomfortable. But he says it's basically the iron sharpens iron thing, but he says every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. So it's like the more you're thrown into the fire, the more it's going to shape you because like you have to show up. And there's a lot of guys that are afraid of adversity, failure, heartache, like all those things. And it's like you can totally use those things for your benefit to like rise above the occasion. So it's like if me and you are constantly like sharpening each other in the word, and then I'm gonna use those things to wherever like in the world, and it's gonna be super uncomfortable. It's gonna be super awkward. I'm gonna like push people's buttons to an extent, and not like random people. I mean, people that I care about, obviously. But like our whole point is to like grow, and kind of what you were saying, dude. There is a point with older people to where like they stop growing, and in the growth mindset, or it says in the book, but Jim Rohn's really big about it. He says the day you stop growing is the day you die. The day you stop choosing to learn and like do more. And dude, you can be 75 years old and still learn. Like still be learning, still be a student. Cause he's like the day you become like, and he's like basically one of the codes to life is like if you're just constantly a student, like being a student or perceiving yourself as a student, aka like a disciple, it keeps you humble because you're not claiming to be a master. You're constantly learning. You're a student. So it's like you're just learning in this game of life. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, or this Bible. And it's like guys are terrified of growth. They're terrified of adversity. They're terrified of failure. It's like, don't be afraid of it because those things are kind of like going to put a light onto your weaknesses. And if you can better your weaknesses, you're just going to grow as a man, which is like, praise the Lord. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
And you look at all those dudes in the Bible, they all went through adversity, but what did they come out like? Joseph went through insane adversity. Joker's second number two in command in Egypt. Like that's what it developed into. You know what I'm saying? Jonah went through some adversity and he ended up transforming a whole city onto the Lord. It's like we look at like adversity as it's a bad thing, but no, it's like it's literally what like formulates us. And it's how God uses us to like make us into what we need to be. You know what I'm saying? But it's just interesting. But yeah, man, it's so I don't even look at like adversity or problems like the same anymore. I look at them like, oh good. Like I get to grow from this. Like I'm so excited, you know. But yeah, so chapter 5 says caring for different groups in the church. It says rebuke not an elder, but entreat him as a father, and the younger man as brethren. The elder woman as mothers, the youngers as sisters with all purity. Honor widows that are widowed, widows indeed. But if any man have children or nephews, let them learn first to show pity at home and to requite their parents, for that is good and acceptable before God. Now she that is a widow indeed and desolate trusteth in God and continueth in supplications and prayers night and day. But she that liveth in the pleasure is dead while she liveth. And these things give in charge that they may be blameless. But if any provide not for his own, and especially for those of his own house, he hath denied the faith and is worse than an infidel. Huh. I didn't know infidel was in here. Let not a widow be taken into the number under threescore years old, having been the wife of one man, well reported for good works, and if she have brought up children, if she have lodged strangers, if she had washed the saints' feet, if she had relieved the afflicted, if she had diligently followed every good work. But the younger widows refuse, for when they began to wax wanton against Christ, they will marry, having damnation because they have cast off their first faith, and withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. I will therefore that the younger women marry, bear children, guide the house, give none occasion to this adversity to speak reproachfully, for some are already turned aside after Satan. If any man or woman that believeth have widows, let them relieve them, and let not the church be charged, that it may relieve them that are widows indeed. Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the world of doctrine. For the scripture saith that thou shalt not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, and the laborer is worthy of his reward. Against an elder receive not an accusation, but before 2 or 3 witnesses, them that sin rebuke before all, that others also may fear. I charge thee before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, that the elect angels, that thou observe these things without preferring one before another, doing nothing by partiality, lay hands suddenly on no man, neither be partaker of other men's sins, keep thyself pure. Drink no longer water, but use a little wine for thy stomach's sake in thine often infirmities. Some men's sins are open beforehand, go before the judgment. Ooh, that's a long one. That's interesting how that used the word infidel. Well, the first part where it says rebuke not an elder, but treat him as a father, I like that. And I like how it doesn't say like rebuke not an elder. Like you can ask him as many questions as you want. Like questions are not bad. You know what I'm saying? I ask a lot of questions. And
Yep.
I enjoy people being older because it's like they have so much information, like life information, you
Yeah.
know?
We're gonna get you to start liking old people, Ralph. We're gonna work on you.
You know what's really crazy? So Marjorie has way more patience for kids, and I have way more patience for older people. I do.
There you go. There you go.
Like they don't bother. It's not that they don't bother me. I just like I find it insanely interesting to see a person's lifelong journey, and to see the conclusion. I don't know why that like intrigues me so much, but to be like, you've been on this earth for 70 something years,
Yeah.
and this is the result. And you've had the Bible, and I'm not talking about non-Christians. I'm talking about people that are like, I love Jesus and I'm going to heaven. I look at that dynamic and I'm like, is this it? That's tight. Awesome. That's good. I'm excited. I'm gonna ask you a million questions, but I don't know. It's just interesting.
The scary thing is it's a lot like the world of health and fitness
Yeah.
where, because I work with people that like their toes just fall off. I'm like, man, I feel like I would do something about it before like I would just let my toe fall off. I could be wrong. It's never happened to me yet, but like the first time that my toe started turning colors, I would start doing something about it, right? And then same thing with people who are overweight, like really overweight. I kind of have the same thing, especially if it's due to like, lifestyle type stuff. But man, the same thing, like he talked about bodily exercise profiteth little. The same thing happens to us spiritually, even in the world of emotional intelligence. I think people start to fall off the rails. And it usually is not this black and white, I'm going to just absolutely not care about my body anymore, or I'm absolutely going to let myself turn into a person that no one respects.
Yeah.
It is a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. So for you or for me, and we want to be 75-year-olds that people learn from and respect, et cetera, it starts with what we're doing today.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very
100%.
sobering because I run across those people and they're 70 plus. It's like, I don't think you have a whole lot to offer the world anymore. And then you come across somebody who's 85 and you're like, I would do anything to keep you with us another 40 years because you have so much and sharing it with people. Yeah, but that starts today with what you wanna be when you're that age.
Yeah. I just, you know what it is, man? I just get so, and like Marjorie's really helped me see this because I was this person, right? This is the fixed mindset person. I was that person that said, I'm just the way I am.
Right.
Deal with it.
Yeah.
This is who I am. And that's the laziest transformation sentence you could ever say. Because that basically says my flesh is greater than my willpower, or my flesh is greater than my spirit. And it's like, if you're that old person that says, I am the way I am and I'm never going to change, that means that, okay, I'm definitely not going to go to you for a lot of advice. I mean, I might go to you for some. There might be one aspect of your life that you're doing decent in, like decent, but like as a well rounded individual, I'm definitely not going to you because no, I don't want anybody that I look up to say, I am the way I am. And that's just how it's going to be. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I would never say that. When I'm 70, I say this now, but when I'm an old man, I'm going to be like, yeah, bro, I messed up 1,000 times. But you know what? I learned this, and it's like, but yeah, you hear people say, I'm just the way I am. And that's it. I'm like, there's no growth in that. That's just pride and ego all day. That's laziness. That's like you choosing your whatever over what's right. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's crazy how like you can lead people to be like that. You can lead people into darkness like that. It's wild.
Well, I think
I
it's
like
neat.
how he, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I think it's cool in verse 1, "Rebuke not an elder and treat him as a father, the younger men as brethren, the elder women as mothers, the younger as sisters with all purity." It's the family of God. It's the family of
Yeah.
the
That's
church
crazy.
is the
Yeah.
family.
It's good.
And when you're yeah, I mean, when you think about it like that, and the really old people are your grandparents, right? Like in the church, specifically in the church. So Paul goes in like we're the body of Christ. So that should you should respect your hand and your foot and your nose and everything else. And then these are your family members. And a lot of times more so than your actual blood family.
You know what else? It took me a really long time, but the other thing that I had to like learn with like older people, and this is like obviously like some internal projection thing, but when my dad became like, because my dad's 77, he had me at 40, which I know two dudes that had kids like 42 and like 44, and I never saw my dad run, which is interesting, but I guess my whole thing was like I saw how cool my dad was as like a young, not young, like as like a 50, 60-year-old dude, 40-year-old dude, whatever. Uh, I don't know why, but it's like, it's just sad to me seeing who was once this like alpha dude turn soft. And it's not, that part's not the sad part. Like, obviously you get older, but it's like when they used to stand for so much stuff when they were younger. And then now it's just like, whatever. It's, it's just like, to me, it's like sad because I'm just like, yeah, your body's going like downhill kind of thing, but like that soul or that spirit, like, does that just follow? I don't know. It's like that thing's eternal. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that just follow the body? I don't know. And so that's why I always ask questions, because I'm just like, can you still have a vibrant spirit, but just have a old body? Is that even a thing? I don't know. It's just, I don't know, man. I just give it a lot of thought to it. It's like, I want to at least try to have like a vibrant spirit, like one that's like on fire for the Lord. And then if my body's like destroyed or my body's like not running well, it's like, this thing's not working, but this thing in here is just on fire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You'll be fine. I think you'll make it.
Hopefully. And then, what do you think, Paul? I mean, obviously, it's because it was a thing. You think Paul's answering all these things because the dudes are asking questions to him, like in previous letters, like, hey, what do we do with all these widows and all these like women?
Yeah, for sure. I think he was addressing a question. I don't know if Timothy wrote him a letter or if he just got word,
Yeah,
but it's not the first time that this came up. I mean, it's why deacons were originated was because of the ministration.
yeah,
I think it's really cool because it shows that the pastors or the people that are in spiritual distribution roles, if you want to call it that,
yeah,
they really were fighting, and Paul was admonishing them to really fight for space when it came to their job versus the job of in this case, taking care of widows or, running
Yeah.
the business of the church, so to speak, that's great. That is great advice no matter what setting you're in. Like, if you're the CEO of a big company, you can't be in charge of intake and teaching people HR policies or something, and in the
Yeah.
church setting, the pastor, there's so much responsibility on the pastor for the spiritual leading of the people, the preaching, the teaching, praying over
Yeah.
the flock, all that stuff. It's great if they want to help, in this case, take care of widows or help that guy out that lost his job or something like that. But by and large, that's on first the family, like the direct family of that person,
Yeah.
and then the church family, and I guess specifically the deacons and then other people in that church. But yeah, he lays it out pretty clear.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how this kind of matches like Social Security because he says, what, three score? How
Yeah.
old does she have to be? Anyway, he talks about how three score years old. So that's 60 years old. And that's when I think Social Security is 65. But he's basically saying under that, let her go get married. She'll be fine. She can get a job. That's what makes the Bible great, man. It's just practical.
That's so
It is.
funny. Yeah, hey, if you're 58, you still got time.
Yeah. You're
You
59 and
still
a
got
half.
you
Yeah,
still
you go find a
you
husband.
go get a hunk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever talked to Caitlin, like, if something was to happen to you, like, what you would, like, have her, like, what the expectation would be?
Dude,
Because I told Marjorie, like,
she'd be married
"G
so fast. She could find
oh, you
someone
know that? You
be
know that?
like
That's
instantly.
funny." Marjorie thinks I would be married quickly, and I'm like, and I just tell her, I was like, "Yeah, if I'm gone, I mean, like, hopefully you'll get some cash money rolling through." And I'm like, "Go get a hunk. Go get
Man,
a real nice hunk." You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm not around, but it's just interesting.
yeah.
Yeah, Marjorie thinks I would not be able to be by myself. She said she wouldn't get married, but she's like, "I already know you. You wouldn't be able to be by yourself with all these kids." And I'm
It's
just
an
like,
interesting it's an interesting poll to do. I think most women that have been married and they've had to deal with men are
yeah,
just like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
"I'm good." Especially if they have kids. It's like, "Well, I kinda got what I need.
Yeah.
I think I'm good." Whereas men, we're so helpless. We're so hard, and we're not emotional and all that stuff. Yeah, we are. Like, we are way more emotionally needy than women.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'd be dead. We'd be dying.
So it says here, this is interesting, right? So it says the church should support those who have no families, and it should also help the elderly, young, handicapped, ill, or poverty stricken with their emotional and spiritual needs. Often, families who are caring for their own helpless members have heavy burdens. They may need extra money, a listening ear, a helping hand, or a word of encouragement. Interestingly, those who are helped often turn around and help others so that the church turns into a circle of caring. And that's like, I mean, I guess the more I'm reading this stuff, dude, I guess is this considered an epistle? I guess the more I'm reading about this man, it just, and I knew the dynamic of the church and how complicated it was. I mean, not to the extent I do now, but it really is crazy how much the church was like this moving, caring, supporting thing in this like dark place. You know what I'm saying? Because you've got people traveling, telling people about God. You got people running the church. Now you got like this aftercare program of like helping people that are in need. You're visiting people in jail. You're giving people water. You're clothing them. Like it's this thing of like servanthood. It's like, you know what I'm saying? And it's just wild to think that like all this stuff was happening back then. And it almost makes it to where like it's an operation.
Yeah. Right, it's a business, and people don't wanna think about it like that, but if you're and I have been changing my view on churches recently, kind of going through the epistles, but also just thinking about it, studying, listening to other preachers and pastors or whatever, is if you wanna influence one person, you
Yeah.
take them out to lunch. That's pretty easy to do. "Hey,
Yeah.
man, I noticed that you're struggling. Let's go get some lunch. I'm gonna be your mentor," or whatever. If you wanna reach 5 people, you got a small group, you're gonna go do hikes on the bridge, whatever. If you wanna influence 10,000 people, right? Fortunately, in this day and age, you have online, which is sort of a cheat code, right? Like, back in the day
Yeah.
when Paul wanted to reach 10,000, it was letters, it was, "Hey, man, would you copy these by hand and send them to other churches?" Whatever. But if you're running a church that's that big, you had better have a CEO, a CFO, an HR guy, a media guy, all this kind of stuff. You're quick to, like, recoil at that because, like, "Oh, well, you must have compromised somewhere if your church is that big." Like, I don't know that that's the case because then let's say you had 10 people in your church and you're on fire and you're doing the right thing. Everyone's, like, patting you on the back, like, "Hey, you're doing great." Then you get to 200 people. Most people aren't gonna say, "Oh, you're compromising. Oh, whatever, whatever." They're, like, proud of you. "Man, you're doing great."
Yeah.
And then you crest 1,200, and it's like, "Boy, yeah, you must have sold out," whatever. But yes,
Yeah.
it's a business. I also feel like the church has really dropped the ball on, like, this passage with widows and again, it's not really the pastor's responsibility. So that's, I think, an issue is people look at the pastor like, "Man, you don't have these programs to feed the homeless, or you don't have these
Yeah.
programs to take care of the widows." And, I don't know that they're even supposed to initiate it. Somebody within the church is like, "Hey, we're gonna take care of this widow. We're gonna take care of this."
He Pastor preached on that a little bit because one of the things he said, and, like, when he said this, I mean, I already knew this, but, like, he was like, "You don't need my permission to do what you think God's telling me to do." He's like, "You can tell me about it, and if I can help you in a way to, like, facilitate it, I will." But he's like, "You don't need my permission." Like, I don't, he's like, "I'm not walking around saying like, okay, I need, Josh, I know this is your talent and you need it." Like, no, he wants you to come to him and be like, "Hey, this is going down." And I don't know. I mean, obviously it's not 100% on him, but I do think there's a form of communication to where you can kind of tell your vision or your expectations. And I think if people don't know what that looks like, "Hey, what does the church look like in 10 years in your opinion? Hey, where are we headed? Like, what do we want to be at?" Obviously, God's plan's gonna like rule, but just having that vision that everyone understands. Like, so for example, with my coaching stuff, like they're saying, "Hey, somebody should be able to look at your profile and very easily understand what you're about." Like, it should be very simple and very easy to understand, right? And so it's like, what are we about? Like, we should make it very simple as to like, hey, what are we about? I mean, if I was to look at our church, I would 1000% say like we're about families. Just visually looking and peeking through the door and say like, "Hey, what's this church about?" It's like, I would say families. And I know it's way more than that. I'm just saying like if you were just to like take a one-dimensional photo of like, hey, I would say it's like we're all very family oriented for sure.
Yeah, I think speaking of that, you know how many children are in the foster system in the United States?
Oh yeah, 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 you told me, yeah. I know. The church can just swing that thing out of there.
1,000. Uh,
Yeah.
Mind-blowing. The interesting thing is there's 2 ways that you attack that as a church. So one is the actual helping of the orphans. The other is, attacking the family, like you mentioned. And let's try to prevent children from going into foster. How do we do that? Don't have kids when you're not married, right? Be a good father. Don't leave your kids. So you can attack it from the culture, which is great. And that's why we just need more churches. We need more people in church. We need churches that
Yeah.
actually preach good doctrine, that preach good, timeless things out of the Bible,
Yeah.
because that's going to help on the front end. But then on the back end, we have turned that over to the state. And a fellow who I respect a lot, he was doing an interview with a fella who was thinking about adopting. And he was like, "Oh, it's too expensive. My wife and I tried that. The rules are and he basically discouraged this other Christian guy who's in his mid to
Yeah.
late 30s from even trying to go through the adoption process.
Yeah.
And, instead of, "Hey man, that's awesome. I I run a huge multi-million dollar business. I'm gonna send you a $10,000 check. I want you to put that in your adoption fund," or something. What are we doing? So anyway, and that's a pet peeve of mine, but it's
Yeah.
the widows. I don't think Paul harped on the orphan thing as much, like it's mentioned. I don't think he harped on it as
Yeah.
much because it wasn't as big of an issue. It was like a no-brainer
Yeah.
that you would take care of those.
No, for sure. Like, yeah, I mean, and I know it's a hard subject and, clearly, but if I do think people would tithe more, because I think they say the average person tithes 3%, and the average people that tithe in the church, I think, is less than 30%. And so it's like on a national average, you know what I'm saying? And the only thing I can think of, like, why people don't, and I'm obviously there's a lot of reasons, but I think the biggest reason is because they're just not invested. Like, whatever the church is doing, that person's not looking at like, hey, these people are using the money the best way possible. Like, they don't financially, they don't have their pastor's trust. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not like, and so, but I do think though, if there was more of this, like, hey, we're gonna help widows and like single family household with like, hey, we might help them with a bill or here or there. We might go visit them in the hospital. We might put them in some whatever. Hey, we're gonna throw so and so's family a $10,000 adoption fund credit or whatever you want to call it. I do think people would invest a lot more if they believed in everything the church was spending their money on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I don't
that's
think,
fair.
I don't think, I don't think people are going to invest money. They're like, hey, our number one goal is to get like, a building or like more staff or like logistical stuff. Obviously that stuff's important, but I don't know if people are going to give money to that more so versus like, hey, we're doing this to like help. We want to double our missionaries this year. So we're going to like, hey, we're going to give all the missionaries a 15% raise this year. Like this is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like when I think about it, I just think that like if people don't truly believe in the vision, I don't know how much they're going to give. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, to your trust thing, 100%. So, like, specifically harping on the kids thing, if I was like, "Hey, Ralph," you come to me and you're like, "Hey, man, I wanna give $500 to, like, children, orphan, adoption, whatever," who would you
Yeah.
give it to? Right? It's like, "Oh, I gotta find a company, I gotta find an organization, one that I trust,
Yeah. Whoever shows up first on Google, I guess.
one that isn't sending my money to Somalis." So, that's a good point. You know, you gotta know where your money's going, or you're just gonna save it and not give it.
No, I mean, no, because the whole reason for the tithe, I mean, I've done a mild deep dive, but it's not. I mean, I know it's for church logistics, but like the way I've been taught, it's not. It's like, for example, like I think the original tithe was like you had to save 10% of your food. They put it in a big old sawmill thing, and that was supposed to feed the homeless people or like to feed the people that didn't have any money for food. Like that's what it was literally for the people. You know what I'm saying? And then I don't know how it like transferred into like cash. I'd have to do a deeper dive on that. But like at the end of the day, like the tithe is for like the house of God. It's like for the people there to support whoever. And I understand like there's logistical stuff like you got to pay the pastor, you got to, pay people on staff, you got to pay some guy to mow the lawn at the church, and you got to pay somebody to clean the church, and like all that stuff makes sense. But like if you can't clearly point out like, hey, this is where your money's going, and you don't have to give them all the details. I mean, you don't have to give them like to the penny per se. But I think if you say, hey, we want to increase this much, or like, or for example, just like Pastor did with the whole camera thing, that was very clear and decisive. And what happened? People just like, here you go, because it was a very clear and easy to understand vision of what was needed. And people will do that. If they don't really know kind of where the church is headed, I'm not saying with our church, I'm just saying in general. I think if I was to say, hey, what's the biggest reason why people don't support something? It's because they don't fully understand the vision. I don't think it's because people don't have money. I just don't think that they fully understand, hey, like who are we and where are we going kind of thing. And like obviously here it's like he's harping about, hey, we gotta take care of the old widows, like we have to do that. So it's like, yeah, if I know my money's going to like support 18 women that don't have jobs and don't have any family, and, in a selfish way, it kind of makes you feel good that you're supporting that, like even to a selfish extent. You know what I'm saying?
That's good.
But yeah, yeah, I don't even know if we should go into verse 11 through 15.
He
It's
doesn't
pretty
like those young
hardcore.
widows.
Yeah, dude.
You better
Yeah, yeah,
watch out
yeah,
for them young widows.
yeah.
Yeah.
Let me see.
Well, it's interesting too that he specifically calls out the younger widows. He doesn't call out like women in general. So again, I think you're right. I think there was an issue going on. And I don't know at this time. I don't know enough about the history. if there had been like a big war or something, like we were dealing with a lot of young widows in a church.
Yeah.
Because think about like after World War One, World War Two, you know, you would have had a lot of
Yeah.
young widows. And yeah, they were idle paddlers, busybodies, speaking those things they ought not. And he's like, just go get married, have some children, get busy doing that.
Yeah. That's
I don't know. I would
yeah.
love to know the backstory on chapter 5, just in general. Like, what was going
Yeah,
on?
I wish there was a system too, because it says verses 9 through 16, Paul says, apparently some older widows were taken into the number, meaning that they took a vow of commitment, committing themselves to work for the church in exchange for financial support. I'll list a few qualifications for these church workers. These widows should be at least 60 years old, should have been faithful to their husband, and should be well thought of for their kind deeds. Younger widows should not be included in this group because they may desire to marry again, and they would have to break their vow. 3 out of 4 women today eventually are widowed, and most of the older women in our churches have lost their husbands. Does your church provide an avenue of service for these women? Yeah, that would be. I would totally, if I was a widow, totally like live at the church and just support me, and I'll serve it up. I'll watch them kids, scrub the toilets, like whatever. Just give me a place to stay. That's a straight trade. That's a good trade off. You know what I'm saying?
I think the coolest thing I ever saw, one of the coolest things I've ever seen, is when we had one of our kids at the hospital. We had it must have been Joel. So we had to go take this parent class,
Yeah,
and I think it was like the day after he was born before we went home. They were like, "Hey, you got this class." We're like, "All right, we're there." So we go to this class, and it was like, you know, don't leave your kid in the car, make sure you change their diaper. Like, it was very basic, like parenting 101. But there was an old lady up there, and she was basically prepping the little baskets that the babies lay in, like the rolling cart, whatever they're called. Watching her, so we got there early and we're just sitting there like waiting for the instructor to come. And there was, I don't know, a dozen of these carts, and she's folding the blankets, putting them in there. They had the little beanie, like you put the little beanie on top of the blanket,
yeah,
the nose sucker, whatever comes in those little carts. And then she was putting like saran wrap on the top, so like stuff wouldn't land in there. And it was like she was preparing a surgical suite. Like it was everything was done intentionally and like really well done and perfect. And so finally Caitlin was like, "Hey," and she's probably 70 something years old, asking her kind of like what she's doing and, what are you working here or whatever. She's a volunteer, and she would go up there, and that was part of what she did is like get the little bassinets ready for when a baby was born. The other thing this lady would do is go in the NICU, and she would just hold babies, because there are
yeah.
babies that
Skin to
are
skin.
there are babies that are born and the mom checks out, or the mom goes back to jail or whatever. And sometimes the babies are in the NICU for 2, 3, 4 months. So mom's got to go back to work. Dad's got to go to, and like, anyway, man, it's like emotional, but that was like her calling. That was her job. She would just go
Yeah,
volunteer at the hospital and go hold babies.
yeah,
And I told Caitlin, I said, "I'm gonna be doing this when I'm old. Like, when I'm old grandpa, and if the Lord hasn't given me anything else to do, I'll be here holding babies," you know?
yeah,
But that's an example of an aged woman, probably a widow,
yeah,
that's not sitting at home saying, "Oh, well, there's nothing for me to do. Like, the Lord hasn't called me." It's like, go find something to do. And holding babies, like, the rewards that lady's gonna have in heaven over a lot of us that think we're doing something good.
yeah.
Anyway, that has stuck with me ever since. That's just been the coolest thing.
No, that's awesome, dude. No, that's really, really good. Yeah, I mean, I tell my dad all the time, I'm like, "Man, like, I'm not saying I can't wait to be retired, but, like," I was like, "I'm gonna be at the gym. I'm gonna be, like, with my Bible buddies, like, 24/7, getting, like, breakfast, if I can even have, like, sausage at that age, like, I don't even know, but I was like, it's gonna be so much fun," but, like, yeah, it's interesting. So if you can go to verse 17, it says, "Let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in the word and doctrine. For the scripture saith that shall not muzzle the ox that treadeth out the corn, and the laborer is worthy of his reward." So that's good, right? If the elder is doing good, right? Isn't it like double dishonor if they're just getting tore up
Yeah.
or they're doing things that they're not supposed? That's not here, right? The double
Yeah, I mean,
punishment.
an elder would be like your pastor.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
It's interesting because he acknowledges that there are elders that are not ruling well, that are not
yeah,
laboring in the word and doctrine. And again,
yeah,
I like where Paul is saying the pastor's job. So I have heard from people, some of them family, where they quit going to this one church. They go to this other church because the
yeah,
pastor didn't visit their wife when she was in the hospital, right? And I
yeah,
get it. That was a serious time for you and your family. I get it. I totally get it.
yeah,
But I'm sorry, your pastor's job is not to come visit you at the hospital. Your
yeah,
pastor's job is to labor in the word and doctrine. Now,
yeah,
if you have a pastor who will come and visit you when you're sick, who will come and like bake you a pot of chili and some cornbread, that's terrific. That's good for
yeah,
you. But Paul does not tell the pastor, make sure you go visit the sick person when they're in the hospital.
yeah,
So, anyway, yeah, I think it's cool that he says, you're counted worthy of double honor. And then verse 18, I think is just talking about paying the guy. You know, your elder,
oh, I got what you're saying.
um, your elder should be compensated because he's that
Yeah.
ox that's treading out the corn. Like he's going round and
Yeah,
round and
dude, it's
round.
work.
He's
It's work,
dealing with
yeah,
you. He's dealing with you people. He has the pressure and the weight and the
yeah,
responsibility
it's work.
of 5 to 5,000 souls. That's his
Yeah,
responsibility. Pay the guy. As much as the church is capable of taking that stress off of the pastor, I think they should. Like, the pastor
yeah,
should not be trying to scrounge around. Now, does that mean we buy you a private jet? Probably not. Probably not. I don't think
yeah,
private jet's included in paying the ox that's treading out the corn. Yeah. And then verse 19, basically have your pastor's back when
yeah,
somebody comes and tries to start something, tries to spread some sort of whatever. The first thing is you like put your hand up and you're like, nope, I need you to bring another guy that corroborates your story. And then we can take it seriously.
no, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, two things to the first part you said about 17 through 18 for like for your family. There's like two parts to that it's interesting. So first off, if that's the expectation of your congregation, it's definitely the pastor's fault for not teaching them what his role is as a pastor,
Yeah.
right? If you're
Yeah.
if you're if your congregation is expecting certain things from you and you don't know how to communicate well, be like, hey, this is the expectation. Like, this is what a pastor's role is. So shame on Pastor Man for not teaching his people what it is. And then the other side of it, I'm not sure if your family did this, but if they somehow thought that their pastor at that time could like mind read their minds, I wonder if they asked the pastor to come or if they were just expecting him to be like, oh, so and so's in the hospital. Let me go over there. It's like, did you ask your pastor to come and be like, hey, Joanne's in the hospital. Can you come by and she's doing real bad. And I think you showing up would make her feel real good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, if you don't ask, you shall not receive. You know what I'm saying? So it's like a double edged sword. It's like, you know, but yeah, no, it's interesting. Yeah, you definitely have to have like, and I've learned because I've just moved so much in the last 10 years. Like, there are no perfect pastors, not even a little bit. And they make errors all the time, all the time. You know what I'm saying? And like, it's just one of those things to where like, if you can just understand that he's a guy trying to do his best, you know what I'm saying? And my whole thing, all I want for my pastor, like in all reality, like definitely doesn't have to be a great preacher. Definitely doesn't even have to know everything about the Bible. I just want a pastor who's not prideful. That's all I want. That's the only qualification for me to be a pastor is like, hey, Like, are you not prideful, and can you tell me the truth, the God honest truth? Those 2 things, you know? And I guess the second part's to an extent kind of boldness, but, you know, can you just tell me the truth? You know? And I think those are the only 2 things I look at in the pastors, like, because I've been to churches where people have grown, the church has grown, and like their ego grew too. It was interesting. I was like, I don't know why my spirit's telling me this, dude, but you better chill out. You know what I'm saying? Like, you get a little hot next to the sun. You know what I'm saying? Or orbiting too close to that sun, you know? And it's like, um, yeah. And when I see that, I'm like, man, like, how does that happen? Like, how does it happen to where like you're getting some little bit of success, and then you're just like getting bigger on the inside? It's like, be careful, dude. Be careful. Yeah. But yeah,
Verse 22, every time I've read that up until this last time, like reading this before today, lay hands suddenly on no man. I've always assumed that was like fighting. I don't know why. I've always just thought you're just standing in church talking, and all of a sudden you just double leg takedown, boom, whatever. I don't think that's what he means. I think laying hands is in the context of what he did with Timothy, like laying hands on a person for the sake of the ministry. So, like, you're giving them a gift or you're praying over them, putting them into ministry.
yeah,
Because, you know, earlier in like chapter 3 or 4, he talks about like not a striker, not a brawler. Like, that's laying on hands. This,
yeah.
he's basically saying you better be really careful who you put into the ministry
Point.
or who
That's
you
really that's
point.
exactly what it means.
Okay, good.
That's what my Bible says. It says, lay hands suddenly on no man means not to appoint church leaders quickly. Paul says a church should never be hasty about choosing its leaders, especially the pastor, for we may overlook major problems or sins. It is a serious responsibility to choose church leaders. They must have strong faith and live upright lives, having the qualities described in 3 verses 1 through 13 and Titus 1 through 1 5 through 9. Not everyone who wants to be a church leader is eligible. Be certain of the applicant's qualifications before asking him to be a leader in the church. When I was early on, probably like when I was in my early 20s, it seemed like a lot of people wanted to be church leaders, like a lot, like everybody wanted to be a church leader. And then now that I'm getting older, it's like no one's really jumping out the gate to be a church leader. I don't know if it's just there's like way more information or just people are like way more critical now. I don't know. I think people back in what's 16 years ago, 16, yeah, in 2010, it was probably a little not as fiery back then when it
Yeah.
came to like volunteering for the church for it. But yeah, we're for as now it's like, yeah, I don't know. Like right now, it's like leadership is, I mean, I'd have to like beg dudes to just be a crew leader. Like guys just don't want the leadership roles. They don't. They just want to show up to work, do their job, and just go home. And it's interesting to see how like that can change a little bit
Why do you think that is?
because they understand that it's like there's responsibility involved. It's a thing. It's like gonna add something to your life. It's gonna add pressure to your life.
Is it
You know.
because I'm not gonna get paid enough to be a
Well,
babysitter?
yeah, if the money was right, they wouldn't even think twice about it. So yeah, it's probably because like, yeah, you're gonna give me more responsibility for what, 10% more? Nah, I'm all right here. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, you got to make it worthwhile. Leadership's a big deal, man. I mean, and I think the other thing too is like whoever's above them's not doing a good job leading. Because if they can make their leadership job like 1,000 times easier by just implementing systems, creating, processes, and like having a hey, if something goes wrong, this is what we do task, then yeah, I think more people would be adamant. But if you're kind of just shooting from the hip and you're just winging it, yeah, people don't want to lead that. That's terrifying. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're doomed for failure. I think people know whether or not, if it's a well-run engine and you're considered a failure, that's definitely like an insecurity on you part. But if it's because you don't believe in the system, that's just wisdom, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the military probably does that better than a lot, where they whether you like it or not, if you get promoted, you're gonna be a leader, and then
Yeah,
if you stick around and you get promoted again, you're gonna be a leader of more people. But also, I think about this, the lack of initiative or the lack of people wanting to lead. I think some of it is the leadership is just a title, and it doesn't come with any real power, and
yeah,
so you promote somebody and you're like, "Hey, I want you to be a leader of XYZ department of my company." But then they're like, "All right, sweet. What can I do? Like, what am I allowed to do?" And it's like, "Well, you can't
Yeah.
fire that guy because his uncle started the company. You can't be so harsh on that lady because, she babysits my dog when I go out of town." And then before you know it, it's like, "So what's the point?" Like, you're just giving
Yeah.
me the babysitting responsibilities, but I don't have the responsibility. Like, I'm not able to cut the cancer out, or I'm not able to change the policies.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Whereas in the military, it's like, sweet, I can court martial this guy or like send him down the road
Yeah.
or
Well,
whatever. I don't know.
yeah. I got into it wasn't an argument, but it was very, like, it wasn't even heated, but it was very, like,
Vigorous.
we were being very nice, but very, like, passive to each other. It was me and this military guy, and he was talking junk about our guys, how we had this one guy that just moved slow, and he was a guy that carried material. So he was a body. That's all he was. He was a body. A guy that, and he was really big and strong. But his job was, I paid him, $15 an hour to just, hey, go unload this truck and just be a helper. Like, I didn't expect anything from him. I didn't think he'd last that long, actually. So the fact that he was there on a hot day, still working, I was like, whatever, that's good. So this guy comes out. He's like a military guy. He's still in the military. He's like, I've seen your guys working, and these guys are not put in the work, and they're going slow, and blah blah blah. And he's like, I've led men, and da 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 da. And I was like, where'd you lead these men at, Mister So and So? He's like, oh, I was in the Marine. I was in the Marines, and I did special forces, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay, so you led guys in the military? He's like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, you know what the difference is between like a civilian and a military man? And he's like, what? I'm like, you can throw people in jail for not doing their job. I'm like, I can't do that. So in a weird way, your job's 1,000 times easier because you can throw people in jail. I'm like, I wish I could do that. I really do. I really wish I could throw people in jail for doing a bad job. I really do. But I can't. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to be thankful that they're working as hard as they are. And as long as the fence looks immaculate at the very end, and as long as I collect my final payment, life's good. And it was just interesting because I don't know if he was just surprised because he was an older guy. He's probably in his 50s. And at that time, I was probably like super early 30s. But like I've had this conversation with other people, like, just like these conversations about like why the military is the way it is ran the way it is. And it's like, yeah, it's a well oiled machine because if you don't do your job, you're either getting shipped over to the infantry as a grunt or you're going to jail. And nobody, if they're not willingly joining infantry because they want to just go out there and slay the world, or like, whatever, like they're going to jail. And it's like, yeah, those are two routinely easy ways to get people to show up, you know?
Yeah, I can call
So
you. I can make you show up at 3:30 in the morning for PT in the military. But if
yeah,
if I'm getting paid $20 an hour and my boss is like, "Hey, I want you there at 3:30. We're gonna start at 3:30 every morning."
yeah.
It's like,
Anyway,
dude, I can go make $20 an hour at McDonald's. I don't, you know. So yeah, that's funny. In many ways, the secular world is a lot harder as a
yeah,
leader.
dude. The civilian war is way harder. I've known so many dudes that went to the military at the very beginning who were failing at life, like failing.
Yeah.
And then they join the military, and Uncle Sam teaches them a few things. And now they're very, very polished dudes. But I'm like, you should thank Uncle Sam for saving your life every day. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So it's just interesting. But yeah, man. Well, this was good. I guess the last thing I was going to ask you is just like verse 24 says, some men's sins are open beforehand, going before a judgment. And some men they follow after. Likewise, also the good works of some are many manifest beforehand, and they that are otherwise cannot be hid. Is this just saying like some dude stuff's like out in the open and some guys are like not out in the open
Yeah. So
and like don't follow both, like don't follow either of them?
so if you think about your sins, let's say you have a 5-gallon bucket full of sins that you're carrying around. If your sins are open beforehand, that would be like you taking them out of the 5-gallon bucket and throwing them in the trash can. So confessing your sins, basically keeping short accounts. The men where it says they follow after would be like you carrying that 5-gallon bucket into the grave with you. So how
Okay.
I understand that is you want them to be open beforehand on earth. That's where you're confessing them to the Lord, confessing them to the person that you've wronged, if you cheated somebody, lied about, whatever. If not, those sins are going to follow you all the way to the judgment seat. And then he says, likewise, also the good works of some are manifest beforehand, and they that are otherwise cannot be hid. So, your good works, people can see those, or they should see those. But yeah, verse 24, I think that's what that's getting at is
Gotcha.
you're not going to get rid of those sins. Like they're not going to time out. They're not going to expire. So you either need to dump out the bucket now, or you need to be ready to give an account at the judgment seat.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting how, like, the whole premise of Christianity is repent, and there are some people that that is insanely hard for. That should be a very strong muscle in your faith where it's like, "Hey, I'm a repenter.
Yeah.
That's what I do. We're Christians. We repent. I'm a repenter." So, yeah, easy money, bam. But, yeah,
And you see it with your kids all the time, I'm sure.
yeah, oh, for
Say
sure. Yeah, it's funny.
sorry.
Yeah,
They can't
Levi
say it.
definitely has well, Levi definitely has he's our only not only, but he's got some fire. Yesterday, Ellie did something to him, and I was like, "Levi," or he did something to Ellie or something, and I was like, "Levi, say sorry to Ellie." And he's like, "Mm." And then I was like, "Levi, say you're sorry to Ellie." And he's like, "Ah." And then he, like, turned to the right, he grabbed a toy, and he chucked it. And I'm like, "Oh." I was like, "Oh." I'm like, "You're gonna be a hard one to break, boy."
Yeah.
It was like, you got that strong will, you know what I'm saying? So it's just funny.
It's
It's funny.
amazing to see
Yeah.
that
That
sin.
flesh that
That's
flesh, man, that
sin,
flesh.
man.
Yeah, it's crazy, it's in there.
Yeah. God bless them.
Yeah.
And
That's
then to
cool,
see
man.
it in an adult, like, we don't get rid of that. We keep it with us. We just get really good at faking it. Now, when we say, "Oh, I'm sorry, man," it's like, "No, you're
Yeah,
not. You're not really
or
sorry."
justifying it.
Right.
"Well, so and so did this to me, so that's why I did what I did. Had you not ticked me off."
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that's cool, man. You wanna pray us out real quick?